Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our next installment of 20 Minutes for Israel from Israel. We are humbled and honored to be joined by Benjamin Snyder, who is a reservist and now called up into the IDF. Just one housekeeping note, we will continue again tomorrow with 20 Minutes for Israel from Israel. We have our guest, Tali Porat, and the Porat family who made Aliyah this past summer to share their experiences. And I apologize for yesterday. There was no cell reception to be able to go live from the rally, but we will find another time to share some reflections on that. Benjamin, thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking some of your off time to be with us. Tell us a little bit how you're doing, how you're holding up. We'll get into some more questions, but just tell us what's the feeling around where you are?
Well, first of all, I'm doing great. Thanks. The feeling is good. Morale is high. I'm here on my base in Yahalom. That's like the Special Forces Combat Engineering Unit. Rough translation. And I also apologize ahead of time for like all the background noise that there's going to be. I kind of like found a curb to sit on. There are cars going by in a little bit, so just forgive that. And yeah, to answer your question, morale is good. Everyone is kind of, there's like a sort of a volunteering spirit here. A lot of reservists came to the unit. They came to the army without being called up until and insisted on somehow being useful until the army just kind of gave up and found a place to put them. So everyone wants to take part. Everyone wants to be relevant. Everyone wants to help and do whatever they can, including everyone that's outside of the army also. So it's really a great environment. Yeah. So
tell us a little bit what's been going on. What are you seeing? What you can share with us?
There's a lot going on. This past month and a few days it's been like a lot of, I guess you could say I've gone through a lot of stages. Where I am at right now is I still haven't yet gone into Gaza. That's something that's probably going to happen in the near future. And I guess I could talk a little bit about from the beginning. Like I could start from the 7th of October and sort of go through how that, like I guess just the timeline of what I've done and how that's been for me. If that's
sure, if you want to pick out some moments, for sure.
Okay. Well, all right. So first of all, the 7th of October, like Shabbat, that was 2 days after I came back from Thailand. I guess for some perspective, like to put everything in context, I had just finished like a academic prep year before starting my degree at the Technion. A very intense year. I had to take a break, so I was in Thailand for a month. And I had just gotten back from Thailand on Thursday, October 5th. And like all I had done since then was slept and unpacked my stuff. Like I wasn't at all. I hadn't even bought food yet. Like my fridge was empty. I hadn't like completely gotten used to the fact that I'm back in Israel. And so I wake up on Saturday morning. I do a video call with some friends for a couple of hours. And once I leave my room, like my roommate in the other, or I guess my flatmate in the other room, like tells me that like we're at war. And I like didn't understand what he was talking about. I thought he was like somehow joking. And he showed me like the TV was on, like, and he showed me what was going on and kind of caught me up. This was around 11 in the morning. So I had missed what had been going on for the past few hours. This all started at, I think, around 6:30. And he told me that Israel had been attacked and that there were Hamas terrorists inside of Israel. He told me that he has a brother that was at the Nova party on the next to Reim on the border with Gaza, and that like as of right now, no one could get in touch with his brother. And yeah, we were kind of both glued to the TV for a few hours, trying to get like a full understanding of what's going on. At the same time, I knew that I'm probably going to get like a phone call soon, and that we're going to get called up. So, and then the WhatsApp messages started also, in the group chats, for my unit. everyone be ready, have a bag ready. All the reservists are going to be called up soon. And then it was just sort of like trying to understand what was happening, accept to grasp the reality that we're all about to get called up to war. When like I had just gotten back to Israel from Thailand, I'd say like half of us were outside of Israel at the time. It was just like a really, really sort of, I guess, surreal day, crazy moment. And this is after being outside of the army for 2 years. So like, it's not like I came back to something that I was used to. It had been a while. And yeah, that night of October 7th, I was called up, which is considered pretty early. More reserve, like I'd say most of the reservists got caught up in a couple of days afterwards. And that night, I was already signed on to my weapon and to my combat gear. And that day was like, I guess, a day I'll never forget. I'm sure everyone who was around for what happened with the Twin Towers, I'm sure it was somehow a similar feeling. So that was the first day. Since then, a lot has happened in the army, in my unit, and with me. I guess you could say I started off I moved around within a few different combat units within Yahalom. Actually, first, just so that everyone's like understands, I'll give like a quick explanation on what Yahalom is and what we do here. So, as I said earlier, Yahalom is the special forces for combat engineering in the IDF, and we deal with. There are a few different jobs within Yahalom. Essentially, we deal with everything that has to do with tunnels, which is one of the biggest threats and one of the biggest difficulties right now in Gaza. We deal with, and my specific job is dealing with like bomb disassembly, and dealing with explosives and dangerous ammunitions, and everything of that sort. We also deal with planting bombs in the field against the enemy, and also chemical warfare and anything of that sort. So that all sits under Yahalom. And of course, everything that has to do with explosives, if it's blowing up enemy amlach, enemy weapons, or enemy like infrastructure, buildings, tunnels, that all falls under Yahalom. So that's the background on Yahalom. I'd say the first week of or a week or maybe even 2 weeks of work that we did was everything was pretty much centered on Otefaza, on the like strip of land around Gaza, which is pretty much where all of the villages were invaded, and it's where all the fighting was done. It's where all the people were killed, and I'd say the biggest part my unit took in that was clearing all of the explosives and all of the dangerous weapons that had been left behind, and all of the grenades that had been thrown and just didn't blow up, and all of the bodies also. One of the security threats, you could say, that was left behind is that Hamas terrorists will sometimes take a grenade, will like pull the pin out, making it dangerous, and slide it under a dead body, either of their own, a soldier, or like a civilian. And then whenever someone comes to clear the body, the grenade will explode. So it requires like a bomb squad to actually come in to deal with the bodies, clear the bodies, and to clear any other sort of explosive or ammunition. And there was a ton of that, and it's like very, very slow work, very, very like psychologically difficult work. I thankfully didn't take a big part in that, but I know there are a lot of people in the unit that did, and I'm sure that's going to leave them with a few scars, dealing with all the bodies. And yeah, the part I took, I guess I'll talk about the part I took in that. So Mainly, I was actually like doing. I was in a part of the unit that was preparing to go into Gaza, and so I was less among the people that were supposed to be clearing all of these villages. Um, but I did go down to one day for one day to Kibbutz Be'eri, which is one of the places, like one of the biggest centers of like the massacre. Um, yeah, I just got a quick question. One
Here,
second.
just continue. We'll take questions afterwards. Just
Yeah.
continue.
All right. Yeah, if you can just remind me towards the end of the questions, then I'll get to that also. At least whatever I can answer. Of course, I have to be a little careful about what I say,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of things, a lot of, I guess you could say, what's the word, classified information that I can't really talk about much. But the part I took in that specific first week beyond training was I went down to Kibbutz Be'eri, and a few soldiers and I would just go like through. We took like charge of one of the neighborhoods there, and had to clear the houses. Pretty much go in, make sure there were no like explosive threats in any of the houses, and you could see. Thankfully, I was in an area where there wasn't a lot of there weren't really bullet holes. There wasn't a lot of combat. Um, People hadn't really been killed in that area, but you could still see like what happened, like what was going through the people's minds and what was happening to them, what they were experiencing in the last like several hours before they were evacuated. Uh, like you would see like people had like left knives like in the safe room, um, and like everyone's house was a mess. People had clothes all over the place. Things were broken. It was like you could. It was like a very serious thing to see. Also, as part of this day in Be'eri, we came across like the body of one of the terrorists, and it had already been a few days, so it wasn't at all like a pleasant sight. If someone else dealt with clearing that terrorist's body, um, and also I discovered I went in, one of the rooms I went into had a terrible smell, and I immediately knew that there's a dead body in there, and like part of the room had collapsed, like the part of the ceiling had collapsed, and I found the like a part of a grenade that gets left by once a grenade is thrown. So I put two and two together. I realized that like someone had thrown a grenade in the room, and I saw that the safe door at the back had been blown open. Um, I didn't actually go into the safe room. My commander did that, and there was a civilian body there that just hadn't yet been discovered until the third day. And it took a while for them to actually identify the body based on like pictures that were on the fridge. So that was I'm glad I didn't actually have to see that, but it was still like psychologically like a lot to handle. And I guess that's just like, and that's the most moderate experience that you could have. There are places in Be'eri that were way, way, way worse. And I have plenty of friends that did that same thing, not 3 days after the massacre, but 10 days afterwards. And then you're dealing with a whole different sort of uh, physical state that the bodies get to. So you could say that was like the first stage. Um, then I was sent up to the north, to the border of Lebanon, and I actually see we're close to the end. Let me know. Give me like a 5 minute heads up, Rabbi Brando, if you can. All right. So I was sent up to the border with Lebanon, and my team and I, I'd say we're more or less 50 people. My team and I just did a bunch of missions on the Lebanon border to help prevent the um, the Hezbollah terrorists like infiltrations, which is something that's been going on and has been happening. Um, and I can't say exactly what we were doing, but a few terrorists were killed as a result of what we did, um, and a few infiltrations were prevented. Um, I was up there for 2 weeks, and then I came back down here to the Gaza border, or to my base, and now we're preparing to go into Gaza. Probably a matter of a few days. Just training, preparing our equipment. Most of my unit has already gone in, so the base is pretty empty, and that's where we're at right now.
Sounds, I mean, there aren't words to describe or respond to what you just shared with us. The work that you do is not just important, but is sort of like enables people to be able to have closure and to be safe. It's just there are no words. We hear a lot about people like coming to support the soldiers in Israel. Have you experienced that, sort of switching gears for a second to some of the points perhaps of rays of light in these dark times?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, that's like a good point to bring up. Like, a lot of terrible things have happened, but at the same time, I'm also seeing a lot of really really positive responses within Israel. Before this, we were in a very difficult, you could say, political crisis, and the nation as a whole was very split, and everything was tense. People were arguing. It didn't feel very good. I haven't even that hasn't gone through anybody's minds ever since the 7th of October. Everyone is working together. Everyone wants to help. The amount of donations we've gotten is unbelievable. People, civilians, come to our base every few days for to do barbecues. We've gotten a ton of equipment, probably an unlimited amount of socks and underwear, everything you can need. Everyone's chipping in, and those, and we have famous singers coming to our base every few nights to perform. Everyone wants to take part, even the people that aren't at all relevant to the army. So I guess you feel like a sort of unity that I guess a country will really feel at a time of war, and it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling, and I think it's also good for the country and good for the people.
So we're coming to the end. 20 minutes flies by.
Yeah.
Tell us. So we're here in America. A bunch of us just came back from Washington. What message do you think we American Jews need to know?
That's a good question. I think that we have two fronts. Obviously, there's the physical combat front in Gaza and soon maybe Lebanon. But the international front is, in my opinion, just as important. What's happening now is a turning point, in my opinion, for the Israel and for Jews. How we're going to be looked at, how we're going to be treated, and also how we're going to, I guess, treat ourselves. It's very, very important that we present ourselves as being able to stand up for ourselves, and that we do stand up for ourselves, and that we also no one's afraid to voice their opinion and to stand up for Israel. There's just a ton of I guess hate being directed towards Israel, and a ton of criticism based on what we're doing, and it does have a negative effect. It will eventually pose a threat to us completing our mission of destroying Hamas. It's a big problem. So just as everyone in Israel is doing their best to help and be relevant however they can, I think it's important that everyone, not only Jews, everyone that understands what happened and what's going on, and what it could mean for the future. Everyone also needs to do what they can to be relevant, whether that's just speaking up now and then, whether it's making posts on social media. Honestly, every individual person knows the best way in which they can be relevant. I think that's just very important, and this shouldn't be something that's looked at as something that's happening in a different country that doesn't affect us. It's going to affect everybody.
Benjamin, truer words have not yet been spoken. I echo that 100%. I think not only is it clear that what happens in Israel infects Jews across the world, not just Jews, but people who seek freedom across the world, but I think that inverse is true as well. We have a real impact that we can have as a people here in America. At the rally yesterday, I saw someone holding a sign, probably like 100 feet from me, quoting Menachem Begin, that we are not that we are not a Jew that has trembling knees. And I think we've seen the American community mobilize. And I echo your call to all of us to call our representatives. I sent out a link yesterday where you can easily access that details. Call every day, tell them to support Israel, tell them to condemn Hamas's terrorism, make sure that they know we need to advocate for funds for Israel, and that we need to demand for the hostages to be released. That's a small thing we can do, and it's all a numbers game. In the office, they just tick another call for Israel, and makes a big difference. And that's a small thing we can do while you're doing such important and incredible work in Israel. Be safe. We're always proud of your decision to make Aliyah, to join the IDF, and to serve our people. And so pride is not the right word, but it's an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the calling that you've taken to protect us and all the Jewish people in our homeland. Thank you. We're going to stop here. If you want to hang out for a few minutes and people want to ask questions, if you have time, we don't want to take too much of your break. But thank you, and be safe.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll stay. I'm not on break. This is totally at the expense of other things.
Even better.